everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Against All Odds. And as I say before every episode, it's purely selfish, the reason I do this, because I get to speak to people that I find inspiring, and today is no exception because I have the legendary DJ Brandon Block with me. How are you, my lovely?
I'm all right, thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me. It's lovely to see you, and lovely to see your, or not to see, but to speak on your podcast and to your followers, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you. So we spoke before the podcast. I've actually met Brandon a few times because I used to work in a nightclub that he played at. And when I found out that he got involved in men's mental health and the work that he's doing now, I watched a podcast with him on, and I was like, I need to get Brandon on because he's had such a life transformation. Absolutely. So a lot of people will know you from the DJ days, and I've heard parts of your story. I didn't realise how addicted you were to certain drugs. Mate, how did you end up like that? I mean, I know it's like a cultural thing in clubbing and that kind of environment.
I mean, look, let me first say this, right? I'm not a fan of the word addicted because it's an old term for a, let's say, a lifelong problem that we've had with humanity. It's not about, what I've learned is, I think, it's a label which is not helpful. I don't find it helpful for me personally. So I tend to not use that word if I can. I mean, look, yes, we know about addiction. It's a way to describe a set of behaviours, isn't it? So basically,
yeah, but I think we're all very capable of that, aren't we?
Exactly. Of course. I mean, I'm saying humans are addicted by nature. If there's things we like doing, the chances are we'll probably do them again. It's just a lot of things that we do which ain't great for us. So, I mean, look, you wouldn't say I'm a gardening addict or a lover of fruit salads. I'm a fruit salad addict, or these things aren't. You're not labelled as a baked bean addict. So you wouldn't. You just say I like my baked beans. So if you have an English breakfast every day, not just for health reasons, but if you work in the building trade, you go to a cafe every morning and have English breakfast, you ain't going to be called a English breakfast addict because it's not. So that if you drugs, yes, alcohol, alcoholics, whatever. So they make these names up. They mean something, obviously, because those substances are problematic and they can cause very serious illness, if not death. So there's method, let's say. So yeah, I was very dangerously so addicted to cocaine. You said it in a way that I don't know. It's so addicted. I mean, look, my addiction, let's say, or my problem was out of hand, massively.
Yeah.
And I think that was. I thought about this a lot, actually. I mean, why would that? Well, I mean, look, I like to party. I had other stuff going on underneath, which I wasn't aware of at the time. Personal stuff from my childhood, which, trauma, abuse, not necessarily, typically sexual abuse or anything like that, but lack of nurturing, and that's not because of my parents. I love them to bits, and we're still, thank God I've still got them, albeit a little bit unwell. But they did the best with the tools they had, right? So I just had this journey from very young. I was bullied at school. I had we now know it as the problem of ADHD, which nearly every one of us has got to a level of now anyway. And the equipment we use on a daily basis, the mobile phones, are terrible for that. It doesn't, scrolling is probably one of the worst habits to pick up on, and once you're in it, you're in it. It's like that black hole of technology you can't get out of. So, it's created a lot of this stuff. So going back to what you said, why? I have no idea why. I mean, I like to party. As I said, I was living in Ibiza with Alex. We were to play in the Space every day, as well as all the clubs in England. I like the party. I like the escapism. I had great constitution, obviously, massive tolerance, which I suppose I'm very lucky to have, because I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't had those
Mm.
What would you call those? I mean, if I hadn't had that, let's say. So, you know, for those people who aren't aware of tolerance, well, the more you take drugs, the more tolerant you become to them, meaning you need more. So this is why when people stop sometimes and go back, they have to go back to the immediate level they left it on and not start again, which is why people OD. Or a lot of the time, that's one of the reasons. So, yeah, I mean, there was a number of things, but they weren't, as I said, I wasn't aware of them at the time. So I just probably wanted to party as hard as I could. Deep down, I mean, deep down, I've come to find out after that a long period of time and period of, you know, abstinence, let's say, that the reason I was so hell bent on, you know, partying and all was because I had issues. I had stuff going on for me emotionally, which I'd never dealt with, wasn't aware of. Thankfully, I'm aware of it all now. It's a work in progress, isn't it? You know, you never, you know, I mean, of course, you get over it, you change, but life changes. I think people seem to think it's juggling everything, isn't it? It's your environment, it's your changes in life, it's what changes in your world, and negotiating that, and also not negotiating and navigating and negotiating if need be, those things as well as the stuff that you've already had gone on. So yeah, I mean, look, it's a journey of discovery, I like to call it. And thanks, you know,
led you to what you're doing now, and you know what, it's you are so right, it's a mixture of everything, isn't it? It's who you're around, it's where your mindset is at the time, and like the trauma anybody has when we're younger, you know, they can have big trauma, small trauma, still trauma, and we still deal with it in the same way. So I'm a big advocate on things like, when we came out of school, nobody taught us to deal with trauma or life going wrong or what happens. So we were kind of left-handed to ourselves, which is why the work that you're doing now is absolutely amazing. So when did you kind of have a light bulb moment of, right, I don't want to be like this anymore, I want to change my life?
Well, no, I just wanted to go, if you don't mind, just want to go back to quickly what you just said about, you know, like about school. School for me, let's say for my era, like the 40, 50, I don't know, we ain't got a generation name because we weren't invented by just us. But let's say for 40, maybe 30 to 60-ish, around that demographic, it was different at school. There was no, you know, teachers weren't even, you know, you never addressed any of this stuff. There was no mental health support. There was no, let's look at this child and see why he may not be able to concentrate, or why because they didn't have the knowledge, they didn't have the information, they weren't aware of a lot of the stuff they're aware of now, which is like these conditions we are diagnosed with. And for those who are interested in therapy or want to get into therapy, when I started a therapy course to be a doctor, would you believe, in existential psychotherapy, I didn't finish it, but this was about 5 years ago, no more, well, God, it was when I was working in drug and alcohol, so it was about 10 years ago, so between 10 and 8 years ago, there was 629 different psychotherapy diagnoses.
Wow.
At that time. I'm talking I'm talking about from a bipolar disorder, I mean, like a borderline personality, a nearly borderline personality. I mean, like these.
Yeah.
So many different things. I mean, this is the human brain is talking about, the biggest computer in the world. So we know each certain aspect of us could be distorted. So we create, or not, we don't, but you know, this is our conditioning creates some of these issues, let's say. So I just wanted to say that because of what you mentioned about the school thing. And, you know, I think now we need to address this and take a part of the curriculum and make it mindfulness and make it mental health awareness. You know, how we're feeling, even at an early age. If you notice something strange, you should be able to reach out and talk about it. But, you know, hopefully that's going to happen in time, because we've now entered an even more stressful, traumatic, let's say, life, because of the not only has it come back with a vengeance after COVID, the speed of what we live and the all the stuff we let go of in lockdown, like comparisons and, you know, expectations and having to do this and achievements and goals, but unrealistic goals, has all come back, but tenfold. So everyone's struggling with, God, it's overwhelmed completely all the time. So, you know, I think good message is to, you know, you're allowed to speak out and say, I'm in trouble, I feel shit or whatever, and you speak to someone. Going back to what you said about me having a moment, right? And by the way, I've been very mindful today, and I've actually remembered what you said. So I've been very difficult to listen of late. I've found it very difficult because of, you know, what's been going on for me. But you know, when you work in drugs and alcohol, one of the first things you learn is how to listen, actively listen, which means hearing you, not just hearing what you said, but it's actually hearing and understanding what you're saying. So yeah, look, I got very ill in the 90s. My partying took me to really risky places. I took very many risks in my lives, and I'm not just talking about the amount of drugs I took. I'm talking about jumping off buildings and diving into filthy waters, and you know, if I had a chance, I probably would have wrestled an alligator and all that sort of stuff. I was fearless in my later teens, let's say, in my early 20s, as opposed to being fearless when I was a kid. So I took lots of risks, and one of the risks I took ended up me being very ill. I had a lung disorder, I had kidney, liver, all sorts of organ failure, all on that way because of the amount of drink I was drinking and drugging. And I ended up having half a lung removed. I wasn't able to do that at the time because the amount of drugs I was taking wouldn't allow the surgeons or the doctors to operate on me in any way. They said, you know, there was no way that they would even attempt to do anything with me the way I was. So it wasn't until I, you know, sort of stopped, clean my act up, let's say, that they were able to even consider it, because I was on medication for all manner of illnesses as well as self-medicating. So I had a body full of pills and a body full of, you know, prescribed medicines as well as, you know, recreational drugs. So it was a rattling, walking time bomb, in all honesty. And I was sitting rocking one day backwards and forwards in the local hospital in the A&E again, like trying to get distal Gesics or pain. And distal Gesics were old school painkillers, a bit like Cocodamols, I'd imagine. I was asking for them and diazepam and Valium and, you know, Rohypnols, but this was only because before they became what they were, Rohypnols, this was just purely for my coming down and going up and pain and managing my pain. And I sat there and I had this moment of clarity, literally. It was one moment where what I put it down to now is the fear, letting go of the fear of living without drugs, which is what I was living in. I found that out afterwards. I realised what kept me in it was the fact that I was in fear of not having it, because it'd been my crutch for so long. And
so it's familiar, even though it wasn't the best. It was familiar.
It was an existence. Yeah. It was not only familiar. It was the biggest part of my life. It was my life. Everything else was on the periphery. The whole thing about my life was it was drugs and cocaine and, you know, partying. But the more about the existence was existing on cocaine, because I tipped over the barrier. I remember the moment I tipped over, because everyone was going, "You're all right, you can stop this, you're all right." I was going, no problem. And I remember waking up one morning and thought, I can't do that now. I cannot stop this. I cannot stop this, and I have no intention of stopping this. Anyway, I carried on. It took a few years of procrastination and I'll stop Monday, 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 I'll stop Monday. And every excuse came up. I talked about this analogy the other week to someone about my excuse book. Right? And it resonated with them. So I said my excuse book was this big. And I actually turned the final page in the hospital and I went, there's no more fucking excuses. I've got no other justifications I can possibly make to carry on this, you know, in this life that I'm living. And that's when that penny drop moment, and it's sort of the anxiety, the fear, the stress, the whole the whole thing left me at one moment, and I sort of dropped into the chair like this, going. It was like I'd been lifted out of myself, and I don't know if it's hard to explain, but if you've ever had those moments of pure relaxation, like you do when you meditate or when you transcend or when you literally let go of it. Even in the present moment, you can do it when you let go of everything, but you calm down such a place that literally all the cortisol leaves your system and you have nothing in there, just you're there, you're just being you. That is the moment of clarity.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to get it, and that was in 1996. And I remember the period quite well, because obviously I went from that hospital that day. I went to get help for myself, and you could, like, in '96, you couldn't just go to a drug service and say, "Oh, help me out, I'm in trouble." You couldn't go and shout on the street, "I'm a cocaine addict, I want bloody help," because it not only did they not know about it, no one had the information about the mental impact. No one. It was illegal. It was shunned. It was stigmatized. It was like, you were. I mean, yeah, there wasn't even you couldn't even come out and be a drug addict in them days. It was like, wow, oh, fucking hell, stay away from that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very fortunate, and that started my journey of finding out about myself and getting better, or beating my addiction, and managing life, let's say, and in a different world, different plane, slightly.
Yeah.
Stanley Rapping, like I said, different frequency.
Yeah.
So that was my moment. It was 96. Excuse me, by the way, everyone.
That's all right. Do you know what? Thank God you had that moment. But I often talk to people, and the work that I do think people have to have that light bulb moment or hit rock bottom to be able to change. You've got to be sick of your own shit, haven't you?
Yeah, I like the way you put that. I mean, look, yes. Well, sometimes. I mean, look, if you're in a... She can't generalise like that, unfortunately, because the world's different. This is what I'm saying. This is why it's got to be... Each person's journey is individual, right? It's their own. And each trigger's their own. Each experience is their own. So one person's rock bottom may well be coming completely different from someone else's.
Yeah.
But for them, they've had enough. So I think is what we picture as rock bottom. I think what has to happen is a dramatic change in someone's life has to happen. There has to be some consequence, which is the why, as you put it earlier. The why am I changing? Because this is fucked. Like...
Yeah.
As you say, it doesn't have to be rock bottom. It just could be a dramatic change, a loss, a grief, a grief of family or friends, or a grief of health, or a loss of anything. It can be anything, but there has to be a change, a dramatic change, or a trigger to make think about something differently and powerfully. So then, an intention must change, or an intention must be put in place. But yeah, I mean, a dramatic change, I think, definitely is key to a lot of people's decisions to change.
Yeah, I think the key to that is, as well, is change is scary. Let's be honest. Like we've said, the brain likes familiar, so it does take quite a lot of balls to change as well, because it's like unknown, isn't it?
Well, look, you see, again, when you get older, change is difficult because it's unfamiliar, right? And then we don't have the same confidence in ourselves. When we're young, we're fearless. We're not conditioned. We're not filled with the fear of life. We're not filled with the fear of inadequacy, and we're not good enough, and we're not. Are we capable of doing this? Our previous experience tells us not. We're not. We're now at a place where we've taken on a lot of shit from people and taken on a lot of negative impact from the world. And, there's no way I can achieve this. There's no way I can achieve this. There's no way, like a lot of us think like that. And many of us do, because a lot of the stuff we read, a lot of stuff we're told, leads us to believe that that's the way we're supposed to be. So if you're able to sort of let go of that and just get out of your own way, as they say, and attempt things if you want to change. I mean, I'm a thing called I do a thing called goal mapping, which I love.
I love goals.
Goal mapping, do you know it? Goal mapping.
So I kind of, so I work with people with goals as well, but I'm intrigued to see how you do it, because I'm always, being a brain coach, I love to see how the people work, and yours sounded fascinating because it's about visualization as well, isn't it?
It's called the whole brain. So basically, it's not left, well, it's explained left and right brain, but it's actually not. When you think about, the goal is set so it encapsulates creativity as well as articulation. So it makes sense though, fundamentally. If you think about, the way I looked at it was, when I first heard about it and Brian taught me the practitioner's course, it just made sense, because I thought, you know, when I was a kid, I had my favourite film, or everyone's favourite film in the 70s, was The Cannonball Run, right?
Yeah.
So everyone went out and got the poster of the black Lamborghini in the Cannonball Run and stuck it on the wall. Oh, I have a black Lamborghini Countach when I'm older. Black Lamborghini. But it's great to have a vision board and great to have a dream board. But the brain doesn't know how to achieve that. All it thinks is, I want that, I like that picture. The picture looks wonderful. So what goal mapping does is, you draw your pictures of what you're after, or you can add, stick, whatever it is. It's like an artistic impression. But then you write your route. So you give yourself a road to follow to get there. And so by following the road and looking at it every day, it becomes subconscious, it becomes your norm. And what I noticed was, it just works. You do it for 6 months and then your behaviours change. So you then know that every time you set a goal, you have the tools to be able to go, right, that's what I need to do. I'll write it down here. This is like journaling, whatever. It just works. It's so good. And I've done it. When I first did it, I achieved all my 8 goals in 8 months, including putting on a music festival, including losing 10 kilos, including loads of this other stuff that I wanted to do. And I did it. And I've been a bit lax and lazy lately, but I do advocate for it. And if people ask me to help them change their lives in my coaching, I use goal mapping, because it works. And it's easy for them to follow. It's not difficult. So,
do you know what? Yeah. I was about to say, I'm so glad you said about trying to get there, like, because it's like setting a destination in your car and not knowing the direction. So it's like you're giving your brain like a sat nav of, this is where I want to go, and the sat nav. So I love that. It's like, I don't know whether you've heard about Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer. So he's big into vision boards. So he puts like, there's my gold Olympic medal, but he puts everything on his journey, but he also includes things that might go wrong. So like another swimmer hitting him, or his goggles failing. And there was one Olympics where his goggles actually failed. And because he'd put that on his vision board, his brain didn't freak out and he knew exactly what to do, and he still won gold.
Well, look, I mean, for an example, everyone. What Brian uses as a story or an example in his goal, the first one he taught me, was winds of change. And when you said exactly that, right? So Michael Phelps writes what could go wrong. So he's preempting the fact that if that does go wrong, I'm already prepared for it, which means I can then navigate a way around it, a way through it, or a way to manage it. So if you think about the way that sprung to my mind was, if you think about Ellen MacArthur sailing single-handedly around the world, right? In a boat which she has to manage and direct, and all she knows is she's got her sat nav, she's got her compass, she's got her her weather radar or whatever. But what she knows is there's a point at the end on the other side of the map is where she's heading, right? So she knows she's got to go around Cape Horn, she's got to go through the Azores, she's got to go through the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, blah blah blah, all these various weather fronts. But if she does this and she does this and she does this, even if this comes at her, she's prepared. Even if that comes at her, she might get veered off to the left or veered off to the right. But all she has to do is go, that's where I'm heading. Back. And eventually, after all the diversions or all the off cuts or whatever, you're back there. And that's your goals are your visions of light or beacons to head for. And, you know, not only are they light, they are your dreams and your passion, your visions.
Yeah.
So it's that encompassing the whole, you know, how passionate you are about it, how confident and driven you are to get to those places. I mean, it's like drawing on your strengths, isn't it? So,
yeah, absolutely. And do you know what I love? I think a lot of people are shy of goal setting because they've not been taught. Because let's be honest, you know, it's another thing we're not taught. But you said something earlier, which I completely agree with. The world is hectic. Like, we are hounded. You know, our brains are like built for evolution times. It's not built for society as it is today.
right.
And with you saying about everybody having like ADHD, I'm completely with you on that, because this world, this society is just way too much. And I'm not surprised that people are getting overwhelmed. So to have what you're saying with the goal mapping and have that sat nav towards it, it's tipping your brain to actually what you want, and it'll filter the majority else of the crap out. Because I honestly believe that's one of the biggest things with mental health.
Yeah.
You know, how the hell are people supposed to deal with that? Because it's insanity. You know, such a shame. And like overwhelm and things like that. And phones, worse for it. They're there. You know, that triggers the dopamine and everything. And
yeah, I know. I look, I get it. It's, we're so conditioned. It's just I think we just forget the all-consuming damage it does. And it's not. It's because of you create those behaviours. You create neural pathways by, you know, constantly picking the phone up, constantly checking Instagram, constantly checking, you know, this whole thing, and that's, you're changing your brain chemistry. And you know, at the end of the day, see, this is like you. There's that great buzz, authentic self, right? That whole be your authentic self. How? Because the first thing you do, well, I say the young people, we should know better, and they say that as an old saying that we should know better. We should know that, well, we can't control ourselves, not greatly, but if we're just mindful that, you know. And I know it's just a silly thing, but putting your phone down at night and, you know, putting the other room and turning screen time and all that stuff off. But the young people of today, this is how they communicate, and this is how they interact with the world. So they wake up and they're automatically living in someone else's life, and they not even aspire, because there's nothing to aspire to. It's just, I want to look like that person. I want to look like that. And you're like, but you never look like, you'll never be yourself. If you look like someone else and you want to be someone else, you'll never be you. Because you look at the mirror and go, don't like me, I want to be that. And that's a big problem. Because that world...
It's not, is it?
Look, it even goes back to those people taking their own lives and, you know, comparing themselves all the time and not being good enough and thinking, wow, I need to change myself. I need to, you know, and it's constant. It's constant. Yeah. Look at this, constant. Look at that. Look at that. And you go, oh my God, that. I get dizzy by thinking about it. You know, if I do 10 minutes on, let's say, I don't even have Facebook on my phone, but if you have 10 minutes on Instagram, let's say, when I'm driving at the weekend with some friends, or I'm not driving, but I'm in the passenger seat or whatever, I'm looking at Instagram and I think 20 minutes later, I've got a headache and I'm thinking, God, what am I doing here? I don't even know what I did it for. And then I have to put the phone down for like 2 hours because I've got a fucking headache. So it's not good, you know. And I think when the days come when we can manage that, you know, mindfully, and say, like, 10 minutes on here. I plan on to get rid of every social media platform on my phone in the next week. And I say it's difficult, but I've got to manage other stuff because it's useful for certain parts of my life, let's say. But what I could do is I can come in here and do an hour in the morning on the laptop, on the desktop, and do some posts and share some stuff. And that'll be it. And then I don't have to worry about doing it again later that day. And you'd be surprised how calm your mind comes.
Yeah. That takes a lot of self-awareness as well, though, doesn't it? Because we have programmed our brain to just pick it up, even mindlessly, like nothing to do, right? Pick it up. Half an hour later, we lost it. So you have to start being self-aware, because the society isn't going to change. In fact, it's probably going to get worse with how fast impact. So it's about being self-aware, which people struggle with.
Yeah. I mean, look, yeah, but it's only a matter of practice. Again, self-awareness is you've got to know you're on the journey. Basically, you've got to know, and people know now. And if they can listen to your podcast, then they'll be on that journey anyway, because they wouldn't be listening to it otherwise. So
yeah.
It is a certain attitude, it's a certain way to be, and I've got to tell everyone, when you start, you can never stop. You can never go you can't go and unlearn it. You can't go and be unaware. You'll always come back to thinking, and not necessarily judging. You can do it differently than judge yourself. You can just examine what you've done, but you will start to think about your behaviours and your thinking and the way you act and everything. You'll start thinking about it regularly, and it'll take time to get into a routine where you can just be all right with it, and it'll become normal. So I think about my thinking all day.
I was about to say, is there a downside of being self-aware? Because I do believe there are.
Well, because if you think about, let's say, ADHD, which is lack of concentration, for the want of a better explanation, right? Or lack of attention. Not only is it us not being able to pay attention, it's us getting attention. Because that's where I think it stems from way back as a child, and not being fully, let's not say, because look, what I came up with, if you think about this, humans are the only species that stay with their parents till well into their teens, maybe.
Yeah.
Numerous years, right? Every other animal has it for a kid, for an offspring for a year, two, maybe three, maybe five maximum, and they become their own family, right? So we've got to be, because we're so complex, we've got to be nurtured. You've got to be pretty much looked after 24 hours a day. If you don't get that, those little gaps of lack of, let's say, nurturing or love or attention become something. Because deep, you're making these, you think, why am I not being loved? Why am I being left alone? I want to cry? And then I have to search elsewhere. Maybe, I'm not saying this is bad parenting, but anyway, we can only do as much as we can in this world. But if someone else comes along and looks after you for 20 minutes, you create a bond with that person, and someone else, 20 minutes, you create a bond when you're a kid. So all these little different spans of attention. And then you've got these neural pathways going, I need more attention, but I need constant attention. So over the years, you then become, I need to go there. This is my take on it.
I completely agree with you. Yeah.
So you get to our age, with the world as it is, we've got these bloody phones which have notifications, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
We've got lack of attention because everyone's the same. So everyone's ding, 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 ding. It's like a fucking pinball machine.
Yeah, completely agree with everything you just said.
So that's why. I mean, so self-awareness on top of that, it's like a fucking constant game of thinking. But don't let me put you off. It gets better, and it gets normal. It comes a time when that becomes your normal way of thinking. So I don't know. Like, so for instance, let's just say, for example, I don't have to worry about going into a nightclub or a pub or anything else and thinking about drugs ever.
Yeah.
I just don't. It doesn't even come into my realm. It's like something that I don't even remember only when people ask me about it that I can recall it, because generally I don't remember it. I don't remember how bad it got, just because it's gone.
Yeah.
And I don't even, like, those doesn't even enter my head. So if someone says it happens, do you want a line? I go,
Just enough. Do you look back at that version of you like a different person?
Well, I was different. I was completely different. I mean, I'm me. I'm not different brand, and I'm older. My behaviours have changed. My thinking's changed. And yeah, I was
You become self-aware.
I was in a different mindset then, and I was partying hard, and we was in a different world. It was great. I loved it then. Don't worry. But it got the better of me, and then I didn't love it.
Yeah.
So self-awareness, thinking, overthinking, all that stuff. But it's just we all have to develop ways of creating our own excitement, I suppose, as well. So I realised what the reason why some of the time during my journey that I used to get anxious, and I still do occasionally, and why the anxiety was so powerful. And I realised, I'd come to learn that it was my way of getting drama, because I used to have loads of drama, constant stimulation, constant partying, drugs, this, that, constant, attention deficit, let's call it what it is, constant stimulation. And, now I don't have that stuff. So my mind or my body, whatever, sometimes creates it itself and goes, I want to change. It's not always great, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I think, oh, fuck off. I don't want to be thinking, go away. And then you just have to, instead of arguing with your chimp, just let the thought process go, let it all sip through, then pick out of it and go, it wasn't so bad, or it was bad, or it was good, or it wasn't good, or I remember that, and that was quite a good experience, and I'll treasure that, or I'll choose to forget it. We shy away from pain, which is why we tend to forget how bad things were the previous time, which is why we do it again. So there's lots of things, but
it's everything. I agree with everything you said. It's like the brain will look for just something to have a bit of drama, especially if we're used to it. It gets a bit of FOMO.
Well, but we are creatures of experience. We want to experience change, and we want different experiences of excitement, of whatever it is, because we could all be, living in the present moment and just going about our business all day, every day. But as humans, it's not what we want. We want excitement. But a bit of change, because that's when we get bored. You get bored when everything's good, everything's all right, and you notice that sometimes you think, oh, it's lovely, it's peaceful, quiet, 3 or 4 hours maybe, peace, quiet, and all of a sudden you're going, right, I've had enough of that. I'm going to get stimulated. I'm going to get excited. I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get, and then you get madness comes in again. But that's just what we are, man. So
it is. Now we spoke earlier. So you did run like a men's retreat in Ibiza, wasn't it, last year? And you're looking to run another one. Tell everybody what's involved in these retreats, because I loved reading about it.
Well, I mean, I got a lot of people asking me about doing a retreat, because I helped. I say I helped. Look, I talk to people a lot. I don't charge them necessarily. I just talk to people if they need help. I send them. I point them in the right direction, and then this opportunity came up. I went to do a retreat myself. I went on one which I was offered to go on, which changed my life again. Changed my diet. I lost 3 stone. I'm still on the change. I haven't gone back to the way I was eating before, so that's good. And then on the back of that, I got offered a mate of mine who I'd seen for a long time. He'd been on a journey. He's a trauma, Gabor Mate specialist, trauma child therapist, blah, blah, blah. He's done lots of therapies. He comes from the same background as me. And he reached out and said, look, hello, mate, how are you? I said, oh, no, blah, blah, blah. He said, I did this retreat in Ibiza. I've been offered the venue. Would you like to do it with me? I said, you know what? I've always fancied doing something like that. And on top of the back of my Happy Days charity stuff I was doing. So I said, yeah. So we got the venue, beautiful villa. We sold out the beds we had. It was men only, because, men don't often want to talk candidly about their experiences. and it was a lot of sharing stuff from people I knew I would never have guessed had gone on for them.
Right.
Literally, people have said I've never said anything about this to anyone in my life, and they were sharing in these rooms and getting, you know, man hugs and breakthroughs and crying and thank yous and God, what experience, and God, I feel lifted, and you know, we still speak. And it was like last October. God, it was before that, wasn't it? It was last October. Anyway, 9 months. We still speak to the lads in the group. We're planning the next one next year because it's our beef has gone through the roof, expensive. It can't be bothered. We've got another gaff next year. It was just very well received. A lovely thing to do, a really pleasant experience, a very cathartic, emotional, spiritual experience. And, you know,
I love that. Because I honestly believe in society that's what men are lacking.
They've always lacked it. It's that whole thing about being a man, isn't it? It's like, you know, we're expected to just suck it up. And, you know, it's why it became so profound in lockdown that men were not able to be men. They weren't able to bring home the bread, as they say, let's say, bring home the bacon. They weren't able to do the things they were doing. So they were feeling really unwell about it. A lot of men took their own lives because we were labelled as being the providers, and you know, it's not always easy to do. No. And you know, and we go, you know, women talk all the time, and they share. Men don't do that.
No,
because they feel, I don't know what they feel. They feel embarrassed. They feel shame. They feel, I should be able to cope. I should be able to, you know, deal with this. Why can't I? And it's all on your own.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, because, you know, a problem aired is a problem shared. A problem aired is it's you know, that's what support groups are about.
Yes.
Whatever environment's in, fellowship, 12-step support groups, smart recovery support groups, any support groups. It's about sharing the human experience and knowing you're not on your own. And
that's it, and that resonating, isn't it?
And that's why men feel they're on their own, because they just don't want to. They feel embarrassed about speaking out about it. However it is, and I'm not.
Yeah, and that's it. I think it's so important. And you're right, women. You know, if you think about evolution, and when we was back in caveman times, you know, women were left while the men went out hunting. So we naturally started talking. They did a fantastic. Did you hear about that experiment they did in Australia? It was either Australia or New Zealand with that shed. So
I didn't, but I'm intrigued because I know what you're talking about. And yes, I'm very, because there's a film called oh God, it's about a film in Africa. If God was, it's about exactly that: hunter-gatherers, women, you know, around the fire, men out hunting. You know, blah, 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 women arranging their family life, men just going to get food and stuff. So, yeah, go on to explain.
So it's either Australia or New Zealand, where they, neuroscientists worked out that men couldn't talk face to face. Like, they needed to be stood shoulder to shoulder. So they set this group up where they stood shoulder to shoulder and then put things in the middle to start fixing. And these men had gone from not talking at all to letting everything out, because they were working with the hands and they were standing shoulder to shoulder. And that's an evolution thing. So it was, you know, it's men do need to deal with mental health different to women.
I mean, look at lions.
Yeah.
The pride hunts in groups.
Yeah.
And the male protects them.
Yeah.
And what happens is we lose our ability to protect, because we don't live in that environment anymore. We don't live in you know, saber-toothed tiger world. We don't live in that world. We don't have to wake up and think, oh, instead of protecting, it's providing, isn't it? That's what we're supposed to be doing, men. Yeah. It's different. And, you know, so yeah, anyway, back to the retreat. Yes, that's what we spoke about. In a way, what is it to be a man in this world, this day and age? How does it feel? what's the struggles, what plays on your mind. It was just a great experience, Amy, and very fortunate to be part of it. And yeah, we want to do it again, and hopefully we can, open the door to many others. And it's not unique; it's been going on for a long time. I've had so many friends who started. Who started men's mental health charities. I mean, I did the gig the other week I love this name, is Sons of Anxiety.
That's a cool name, yeah, I like that.
And the logo is very similar to the Sons of Anarchy. So, and the Sisters of Anxiety as well. So they've got the women's version. But, Man Down, there's loads of them, so people are aware of it, and, it's about managing it now. There's no way to cure it by any means. It's just knowing how to manage it, because this world's not going to change that dramatically. It's going to get worse. Well, different, worse. I don't know how worse may not be bad for certain people, but it's definitely struggle for some others, so.
Yeah, and definitely it's going to get faster as well, and that's without.
Yeah, I'm going to step off that train very soon.
Yeah, which is why I really wanted you on here as a guest, because you share the same views as me regarding that. The work that you're doing is absolutely, it just amazes me, because I honestly believe that people will be able to resonate with you so much. And I think that's what people need, is, like you said, like men to just go, do you know what, I've been in this place, and yes, I've struggled. You are not alone, and that is why you inspire me so much.
Thank you. It's very nice of you to say.
I've got one last question that I ask everybody, and it always puts makes some people a bit nervous. Brandon, tell me 3 good things about yourself.
Oh, good things about myself. That's a difficult one. That's very good, because we're not good at that. Okay, so I'm a good empath.
Yeah.
I'm a good listener, and am I a good partner? Yes, I'm a good other half, let's say, to my missus. Yes, yes, I am.
Thank you. That was a great answer. I always ask people, because I think we're a society of just saying, right, I'm not very good at this, I'm not very good at this, I'm crap at this. So I just like to go, right, tell me what's something that's good about you. So I love that question. So I will put all your contact details up, any events or like wellness events, men's events, please send them on to me. I've got loads of following that would be absolutely love to be part of that.
Yeah, listen, if anyone is struggling and you feel you want to just reach out and have a chat, or need some help, I'm happy to talk and have a chat. And don't feel bad about it. It's confidential, of course. And don't feel bad about reaching out. Just do it. And if I can help, I will. So yes, put my stuff up by all means. It's lovely talking to you. And
yes, you are an absolute legend. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Like I say, everybody that wants to have a chat or follow what Brandon's doing, just make sure you will put all your social media links up and everything. And thank you so much for your time, my lovely.
A pleasure.
You take care.